One super awesome exercise in Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, is remember and it has to do with acceptance, but being fully present is accepting that thoughts are going to come and just observe them. Don't even judge them.
Yeah.
Don't even judge the thoughts. They're going to pass by.
Yep.
Acknowledge they're there, but don't judge them. And that's the hard part. Don't believe them also, but just don't judge them. Don't try to fight them. Don't try to necessarily accept them. Yeah, that's the resistant part. And that creates friction and then stress and etc. And the rest happens.
Hey, Dave here from the Breakfast with Manny podcast, which comes from when my co-host Emmanuel, also known as Manny, and I used to meet regularly for breakfast. When we were discussing the shifting landscape of manhood, mostly by sharing our experiences and our struggles, as well as my coaching courses and my entrepreneurial experience, we realized many men could benefit from discussing these topics. So Breakfast with Manny is going to explore the unseen patterns that sabotage men from realizing their potential, healing, and getting the life, sex, career, and health they want, leading to a healthy masculine life. Hey everyone, welcome to Breakfast with Manny. I'm Dave Rosenberg here with Manny. How you doing, Manny?
What's up, brother? I'm good, and you?
I'm good. Excited to get going. Okay, this is now season 2 finale.
Yep.
So we are going to get into what to do if you're stuck, what to do if you're down. That's a big part of today. But before we do that, let's let people behind the curtain. So we do a bunch of episodes in a row, and we have guests, and then we kind of mix it around. So for time purposes, to let you know where we're at, it's January 2025. So Happy New Year, everybody. So before we dive into like being stuck or being down, like why don't we take a look back at 2024 for a second? So
it was a pretty intense year for you, no?
Yeah.
How do you see 2024?
2024, I see it as a year that I needed to get through. It was pretty intense, man. Like I had a big corporate shakeup, company, got out of the corporate world, did another coaching certification, which was really deep for my family at Elementum. I had a big high. I went to a workshop and kind of kicked some ass for a while. Then the universe said, you're an idiot. I kind of dipped, and I'll talk. That's part of the reason I want to talk about being down today. And I chilled out. Like December was a really chill month, and I kind of eased into 2025. And you can hear it in my voice. I'm a little sick.
A little bit sick still.
Yeah, a little sick. But how about you, man? What 2024 for you?
It's an interesting year. For me, it's a year in which I kind of fell a bit in the routine of things, and we talk about it. Like I work a lot.
Yeah.
I like the work I do. Sometimes it's challenging the passion side of things, because I do believe you need to be passionate about what you do fully.
Yep.
And so to me, that year was about navigating and trying to learn where is the balance. Like, is it okay to do something that you know that you're growing, but that you're not extremely passionate about?
Yeah.
Or should you focus on something you're really passionate about? And then, so that was kind of my challenge during this year.
Okay.
I'm starting this year super fresh. I'm excited. I'm ready to to crush this year. Cool. And I have actually a couple of books I want to talk about later on that talks about that side of going all in into something. But so we'll discuss, because I know you have also something about the other side of acceptance, but it's going to be fun.
I mean, before I do that, what about you? What's 2025? Like, have you got any resolutions and all that fun stuff that people always do?
So here's the thing. Here's what I believe. I've done it in the past in which I write down a bunch of resolutions and then nothing happens. nothing gets done.
Yeah.
Or at least none of them.
Yeah.
So it's been at least 2 years that I try to have my resolutions that are not a New Year thing. Rather, just I'm starting now. I'm starting now this, and it's not because it's New Year's that I'm gonna suddenly just do new ones. But with that said, I still did a couple because my girlfriend, we do a little discussions together.
Nice.
But yeah, I did a couple. You?
Well, you gotta share them.
So one of them is I need to be more focused about the way I eat and more, I think, healthier.
Yep.
So I want to run a half marathon in,
cool.
I think it's August or September here in Montreal.
Nice.
For the folks who live in Montreal, I want to do the half marathon of Montreal.
Nice.
And so I need to be more, strict about the way. Yeah. It doesn't mean everything needs to be super, super calculated, but it does mean that I need to be, thoughtful about what I decide to ingest, because that gives my body energy, or it, kills it if I eat like shit. So
cool.
That's kind of one of the focus.
What's
That's
the
one of them.
Yeah.
The other, I just purchased a property. So with my girlfriend.
Man. Yeah,
thanks, bro.
Congrats.
So we're gonna be moving our stuff. Homeowner now. Ooh. Yeah. So riding the equity wave. Okay. And I'm feeling in the east though. And cool. My goal is to make sure that we arrange the place the way we want it, and then potentially travel. That'll be another goal. But that's for me kind of the objectives.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man.
What about you?
For me, I would say this, like, I think I've come home to the idea, and again, being in a totally different age bracket than you, going through all of the ins and outs of like wanting a lot of things or stuff or wanting life to be a certain way is, I'm really coming back towards acceptance because I mean, shit's going to happen in life, right? Mm-hmm. Like things are going to go on that we don't really like. And I think if you get stuck between like things that you want and things that you don't want to have happen, but they do, like people get sick. Some people, you lose a relative, you lose your job, you get hurt. Like these things are going to happen. And I'm really focusing on just more accepting of reality. So for example, like, sure, I'd love to lose 10 pounds, right? So I should lose 10 extra pounds. But the reality is I have not done that. Yep. Like reality is like, I'm going to accept it and I'm going to move towards the 10 pounds without this sort of like rabid goal pursuit, but more of the way you're doing it, like a new way of living. Like I'm going to eat cleaner. It's just that.
Cool.
So
question for you on this.
Yeah.
Because some people, when they're setting objectives, for example, they need that drive or incentive or reason to that why of why I want to do it. Right. A question for you though is, for example, the acceptance, I think it's a fantastic part because you remove a lot of the unnecessary stress and anxiety and resistance around it. But do you have something that allows you to say, you know, during the week or the month in which you're not down to eat super healthy and you're like, I feel like shit and I'll just accept it. How do you stay on track? How do you say, you know what, I need to actually commit and do what I said I was going to do? So what's that why? Do you have something there, or for you it's like it's
a good question, because I think what happens is people feel like if I don't get on my own ass, if I'm not hard on myself, it's not going to happen, which to a degree is kind of true, but also when you have less resistance and you're not fighting reality every day and you're not fighting against yourself and you're not, as they say in the business, shooting all over yourself, then you have more capacity for discipline and you start to do things because you really, really, truly want it.
Okay.
Right? Like, so I'll give you an example. Like I used to have this language of like, I gotta eat better. Gotta, like imperative. Like that doesn't really work that well. And it's not really good for your nervous system. Whereas it's like, I'm choosing to eat better. And so coming at it from a calmer place to make your choice, to go like, all right, am I going to eat garbage or am I not going to eat garbage? And you can create a new identity for yourself of, well, I don't put garbage in my body, whatever, 28 days of the month, or I have only one cheat day a month. You can come at it from a different direction. I guess what I'm getting at with the acceptance is like people really, especially in today's world of striving and pushing and going and all that, there's a real resistance to this because people think you're not going to achieve your goals if you're in acceptance, but that's not true. Have your goal, but just don't be like so attached to it that if you don't hit it, you're miserable, right?
Gotcha.
You kind of want low attachment to the goal, but here's the other thing, and I mean, this is a whole other ball of wax we can talk about another day, is how do you know what you say you want is going to actually make you happy?
No, that's a great point.
Because we've all done that. We've all bought something where we're like, you know what, if only I had that pair of skis or that jacket or that, where we're like, fuck, yes. And then 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, it wears off, right?
No, totally.
So
I think my personal opinion on this is I think progress kind of equals happiness, and progress has different growth, basically. It has many different meaning for each individual. But I think as long as you don't stay the same and decide to, you know, close your mind and your eyes to progress, then I think that's where you continue to grow. And I wanted to ask you actually something on this, because I want to double down on something that you said that's very interesting. It's true that when you decide to add a lot of stress, well, you don't decide, but you get stressed because you're so attached to the goal, then that stress can actually be counterproductive. Totally. And I see so many people, including myself, in moments in which I've literally stressed. I don't know if you say that's stress eating, in which, you know, you don't want to eat. You're so focused, and then you're like, I shouldn't eat. And then you see something, you're like, okay, I'm going to eat because I'm so stressed.
We all
because
have
of all that.
Stress.
It's basically just the vicious circle there, right? So
sorry to interrupt. Like, so we just have so much stress. We don't need more stress by like, oh, I should have done that, or I should have done this, or I should have done that, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I had a client reach out the other day by text, and he said, "Oh, I just finished a financing deal," and he goes, "I still feel blah. I should be happy." Right? But the fact of the matter is he's not. So you're like, but you're not. And here's the thing. Inherent in that is a judgment. There's a judgment in there, right? Of like, I should be happy. And so I call that in Buddhism, they call it the second arrow, right? It's like, I should feel happy. I'm a loser. Like he had another thought right after of like, what's wrong with me? I'm an idiot. I'm broken. I'm crazy. I'm this. So this is how we hurt ourselves. And what I mean is to go like, curiosity is one of my favorite tools for sure, which would be if he was to do it in a curious way, he'd be like, I kind of thought the financing coming through on my big deal would make me happy, but it didn't. That's interesting. And just a little self-exploration. And I think that's the other part of as much as I've done quite a bit of work, there's so many layers I have not touched.
Right.
And so like self-inquiry, self-reflection, those are the kinds of things I'm interested in this year. I think goals, I just think there's a concept out there. I don't know a lot about it, but I've read about it a bit called miswanting, right? It's like, well, if I just get that girlfriend, like, so for example, I know someone who I've worked with on and off for years. She kind of couldn't commit to working anymore. So she's wanted to get married for years, right? And so she's like, oh my God, if I can just get married. And as she gets older and older, it gets more difficult. And so now she wants it so badly that if she gets a guy and he's not great, she'll stay in, right? Because she's like, well, I just got to get married.
She's so attached to that.
Yeah. So what happened was she actually got a pretty serious boyfriend who wanted to marry her. And guess what happened? She wasn't very happy because he wasn't a great guy and he wasn't the guy for her. But you know, it's like she thought if I just get a guy who wants to marry me, I'll be okay.
Right.
But that's outside her.
Yeah.
That's outside, not in.
That's not from within.
And so,
Gotcha.
It's an interesting, it's
very, very interesting.
Pretty wild, man. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Wild shit. But I mean, what I'm certainly saying, go for your goals and give it a shot. But, you know, don't be so attached that it makes you miserable. That's all.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I
like that. I like your approach of really looking from within and not necessarily being, again, attached to all that external forces. And also I wanted to say on that, do you read Eckhart Tolle a little bit?
Sure.
Did you read his book on meaning, like life meaning basically, or something like that?
Yeah. He's got a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a few books.
I just started reading one of them. I thought it was fantastic. And it talks a lot about the ego. You and I had a talk about the ego as well before, but I think it relates a bit back into stressing about what we're doing, our appearance, the judgment of others.
You nailed something that I think we need to address. And I literally got into this today. I was with a client and I wanted to just show her the power of the present. Like you always hear that, right? This is a spiritual thing. Like the power of now. The power of now, the present moment. Well, what the fuck does that actually mean? Yeah. Well, here's an example. So I said like, where's your attention right now? She goes, oh, you know what? She's like, yesterday I kind of screwed up one of my coaching calls. I'm like, okay, that's yesterday though. You're not in now. Well, what about now? What's going on right now? And then she went into the future. She's like, well, I'm a bit worried about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that worry is in the now, but like right now, isn't everything okay? And so we sat in the fact and she sat in like, everything's actually okay.
Everything is fine.
Like everything's actually fine.
I can breathe, I can
live.
All
my needs are met. I have a house, I have money. Now, some people don't. That's a different story. But understanding that the ego has power over us in the past and in the future, right?
Yep.
It just completely takes over. And then you'll have crazy thoughts. Like I'll give you another thought from, I worked with an executive who was on the board of a big company and the board voted to steal $15 million from the employees, like cut their comp.
And basically just...
And so what did he do? He quit on the spot. He goes, if you guys are doing this, I am out. So when I met him, he was beating himself up going, I'm such an idiot. I lost a great job. I lost all that money. And I said, you could look at it that way, but could you also look that you were like, look who you are as a man. Like, look who you were. Mm-hmm. And look how you're living in integrity. And he's like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. But the part of him that is beating him up, that's ego, right? The judge.
That's 100% ego.
The judgment, it's just ego, right? Because the compassionate part of him is like, man, you felt for those employees. And some people would be like, yeah, you're an idiot. But here's the thing. This is a guy who doesn't need more money. Like, he's got enough money. He doesn't need to work at a place that cheats its employees.
Right.
And so, like, what was interesting was here's a guy who could feel good about what he did, but his ego got on top of him and made him feel terrible. So,
right.
This happens to all of us.
Totally. But living in the present moment is such a big thing and so easy to just fall down to our basic instincts of always thinking about the future or the past.
It
One
is.
super awesome exercise in Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, is remember and it has to do with acceptance, but being fully present is accepting that thoughts are gonna come and
Yep.
just observe them.
Thoughts
Don't
are gonna
even
go.
judge them.
Yeah. Thoughts
Don't
are
even
gonna
judge
go.
the thoughts. They're gonna pass by.
Yep.
Acknowledge they're there, but don't judge them. And that's the
Don't
hard
believe
part.
them.
Don't believe them also, but just don't judge them. Don't try to fight them. Don't try to
That's
necessarily accept them.
resistance,
Yeah, that's the
'Cause
resistant part. And
now
that
you're
creates
attached.
friction and then stress and etc. And the rest happens.
But it's true. So much of what gets us down, and that leads nicely into what I want to talk about. So one of the main things I want to talk about in our last for episode 2, season 2 finale is I've had so many people reach out to me recently saying I'm stuck. 2 things: I'm down or I'm stuck. So I want to pull this apart. So the I'm stuck, I usually ask them like stuck between what and what, right? Good question to ask yourself. Like, what are you stuck between? And then the real question is, are you really stuck? Or are you just afraid to make a choice? Because you're never really stuck, right? Like for lots of people say like, oh, I can't leave my job. You 100% can write a letter that says I'm
Yeah, you can.
submitting my resignation. You could, but it's all the worries and fears on the side, right? So the stuck thing is like a lot of what happens is just how we interpret. So for example, like I'm down. I'm down. Now, if you're truly depressed, can't get out of bed, professional help. But I'm talking about, when we just feel off and we're just not energized. And I think a lot of people misinterpret a couple of things. One, excuse me, there's rhythms in life. You are not going to be balls out, or as they say, like you're just not going to go 100 miles an hour all the time. Like look at day and night, look at the tides, look at the moon. Excuse me. Why do humans not have rhythms too? So number one is, for example, like farmers have this thing where they call it laying fallow. Like they take a field and they rest it for a season.
Yep.
Why? Because
So
they don't want to suck all the nutrients out of it and burn it out. But we don't do that for ourselves, right? Do we take a season? Do we take a week or two or a month to regenerate, renew? We don't. Most of us can't do that for money reasons, for work reasons, for family reasons. But it's something to think about. But the other thing is when you start to think about I'm down, I'm depressed, versus like I've had a couple of people where it's very obvious they're in a pivot. So they feel they're down because they're a little lost, right? But what's the first thing you do when you build a building? Like the first
foundations, you're saying?
Foundation, you dig down.
Yep.
So I said to those people, like, what if you're going down to build up? And they're like, oh, well, that would be cool. Like, yeah. So our interpretation of what's happening to us is so important when you say like, oh, I'm depressed and I'm down. Depression usually comes from being in the past. Depression usually comes from thinking it'll never end. So like also
But you're stuck basically, and that's going to be
you're stuck, right? You're like, oh, this is never going to end. Of course it's going to end. Everything ends. Everything has an ending. We're all gonna die. Everything's gonna fall apart. Like that's over. Could take forever. Could take a long time. But so I thought, one of the things about being lost. What comes after being lost? Being found. Like maybe you're just finding a new way. Maybe you're finding a new path. Maybe the universe is telling you don't run in the wrong direction. Like that's another piece.
What kind of practical approach can you give to someone who's feeling stuck? That was a great question, the one you asked about, like stuck between what exactly?
Yeah.
To start actually analyzing what's actually stopping you from taking decisions.
Yeah.
But I was curious about your thoughts. Like, is there any, like, how would you go about it?
Yeah, great question. So, you're getting into something I'm working on that I'm looking at, which I call System for a Down. Again, not System for Depression, but System for a Down. I'm sure a lot of people know the reference on that one. It goes with wake up, but anyway. So I put together kind of the beginnings. I'm really just fleshing this out, but I do want to share it, and I think we want people to benefit. So, number one, we talked about acceptance. I'm down. So I didn't get a chance to tell you. I sort of mentioned it in my intro, right? How I had this big whatever moment, and then I crashed.
Yeah.
I was pretty down in October, November, I guess.
Yeah, it was
Kinda
around
had a
those dates. I
little- We
remember.
chatted. We had breakfast like our usual. And that's like, so as this came to me when I was down, I'm like, oh, this is why I'm going through the down. Like I'm going through the down so maybe I can help other people with a down. So now, like, it's not, oh, I'm down because the universe hates me and because I have a part of me that says I'm fucked a lot. Like, oh, you're fucked. Like, so I spent a lot of time like, wow, that's an interesting part of my ego, like warning me for things and stuff. Like, you're fucked. So I created a little, 7 or 8 points to sort of help people. Number one, I'm in a down. Look at it this way. I'm in a down, downs happen. Downs happen. Life has rhythms, right? No
So you don't double down yourself.
You don't shoot the second arrow, right? Which is I'm fucked. I'm depressed. I'm never gonna do this. I'm never gonna do that. Those kinds of things.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't get into these things where you've completely screwed yourself. Like don't jump in a hole and start digging. Is sort of it. So number one,
acceptance, basically. Accept the current state.
It's not going to last forever.
Cool.
I mean, most of us have been down before and we get back up. But we need help. And then the other thing is accepting that there's a rhythm in life. Contrast happens. Life comes with contrast. I will never appreciate my highs without knowing lows. So that's number one. Number two, change your perspective. As I said earlier, like, instead of like, this is the worst thing ever and this sucks, which look, it does suck to be down. But if you could say, like, am I maybe looking at a new direction in life? Is the universe calling me into something else? Is it time for me to rest? Is this a pivot point? Am I digging down to go up? Like, change your perspective on it. A big one. Are you catastrophizing? Are you putting yourself, for people that are doing okay, let's say, lower. Are you
amplifying the problem you're saying, or the feeling you have right now you're saying?
Let's say you're a pretty stable individual. You have a house, you have a mortgage, not too big, and you're out in the street, and you're begging in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Just know, wow, I'm catastrophizing. I've never been in the street, for those of you that haven't. I've never been in the street. I'll never be in the street. Chill out. Like, let's relax. So careful on the catastrophizing. Look for that second arrow, right? Are you shooting at yourself? Take care of your body. Listen to the slowdown. Your body is telling you it's time to slow down. So if you can afford it, get a massage. If you take a bath, if you go for a walk, get into nature. Nothing heals more than nature. Nature's incredible for this. Go for a walk. No headphones. Just go for a walk. Just be. Like, spend some time in beingness, right?
Yeah, movement is a big thing. I believe movement is a big thing.
And the key to exercise is you're not going to feel like doing it sometimes. It's like, just start. Or just cajole yourself into 3 minutes. And 3 minutes could become 7. Who knows? But even if you just do 3 minutes, a little bit of movement, huge. Go inward. Something's calling out. Like, what's going on? What's going on in me? Is there something I have not resolved? Do I have to grieve something? Mm-hmm. Is there a shift in my life? These kinds of things. Go inward. Go outward by connecting with others. Like, you'd be shocked once you see. I mean, when I was down, I shared it. I wish I would have shared it more when I was in it. I was really like hesitant to do it, and I really wish I had. But I did share it with friends like you. Mm-hmm. I told you, I go, oh man, I'm really struggling. And you'd be shocked how many people are like, yeah, man, I've either been through that or I'm going through it right now. And just being a little vulnerable with people.
You can connect on this. You can talk about it.
Find a safe space to connect. Yeah. And then the one of the biggest cures to being low or feeling down, somehow, some way, just find a way to do something for someone else. A tiny little thing.
That's great.
Carry someone's bag, pay for a coffee behind you, do some kind of random act of kindness for someone else. It's actually just a game changer. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The contributing and helping, I never thought about that part, but that's insane.
Yeah, I'm
sure it helps a lot.
It really helps, man. Yeah.
Cool. So these are more practical examples on things you could do if you are feeling down right now.
Yeah. There's
These
a
are
lot.
interesting.
No, I should say
We can put a list there on the video to just. I think
Yeah.
this is great, or even on the comments because
we'll put it into the description. We'll put it into the description. But and look, like, don't get me wrong, there is a place for deeper work. I do a lot of that, like with my clients, right? Inner child work, what they call parts work. We have parts of us that are fighting, or parts of us that are taking over. There's room for coaching, therapy, all that stuff.
Yep.
I'm talking about what you can just do very simply for yourself.
And I'm sure for most cases this is the answer.
It can help.
And then you're right. Maybe there's more deep work. Some people need
Absolutely.
like really crazy work.
If you want to go deeper and you really want to get to some root stuff, no problem. But I think the biggest thing is just understanding life has rhythm.
Yep.
The world has rhythm. Like, it's everywhere.
And for those who have really...
We don't want to have rhythm, right? We want to be, fuck, I crushed it all the time. Doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those who have really dark thoughts, then definitely consulting.
Get help.
Yeah, consult professional help, 100%.
100%.
That is a step. That's really interesting, bro. And this is really good. So you've had people reach out recently?
I've had a lot of this, like, I'm down, I'm stuck. Like, it's really somewhere I think I'm going to be taking a lot of my work. And it's, you know, humans have patterns. So I see the same patterns in people, and it's like all about having them see the pattern for themselves and go, oh, I'm not actually fucked. Like, I'm not actually, like, you know, or in this moment, are we okay? Right. So I have a worry about, I don't know, let me pick a worry of mine. What am I worried about? I'm worried about money, let's say. Right. So, but right now, I mean, I'm in a nice house, like, shut up.
Yeah,
part of me is ashamed of it because I'm like, shut up. I'm in a nice house. I have a car, like, fuck off. There's people that have nothing. So, but there's a part of my mind that's like, oh, but in this moment right now, I have enough money.
Yep.
Like right now, come back to now. The worry is in the future, and the ego controls the future.
But even for those who are maybe not in the best financial situation right now, or struggling with things that, let's say, are very real is not the word, but are happening to them at that moment.
Yeah.
Even in those scenarios, sure, building out a plan and finding ways to get out of that situation.
Yep.
But you can still benefit from being extremely present. Because you can remove a lot of that stress that, okay, sure, I have to pay my credit card, for example. But today, right now, it's okay to live in the present, to be okay. And I'll find a way to work. Exactly. I'll find a way.
Yeah.
But let's still try to reduce that level of stress, anxiety that's
and it's not
all the
that
time
easy.
attacking.
And
it's not easy. Easier said than done.
It's not easy. You're training your ego. You're training to deal with your ego in a way that's a little bit different, right? You're training to just be like, nope, I know I'm going to figure this out. And the problem is when you go on that job interview and you're really worried about money, you're not
super present 100%
at the interview.
Yeah.
You're like, I got to get this job, right? It's like, go into it a little less attached, a little bit. It's hard because, you know, people that need jobs need a job, but it's just sort of like you get in this circle of shit because you're like super worried about the job, and then you go in nervous and you don't get the job and you get more nervous. And so it's like, can you find somewhere in you?
Yeah, you got to break that cycle to some extent, at least.
As best you can.
As best you can, 100%.
Yeah. I'm going to finish. I'm going to add one more thing I want to talk about, which I think is really, this one hit me hard. So a good friend of mine, someone I've known a long time, we were chatting, you know, the usual, like, post Christmas or kind of holiday, hello, how's it going? And I get I was just in the hospital. I'm like, oh. And now I know this person, very dedicated to work. One of those people that's too dedicated, like, lives it, takes it to bed, stresses about it. So this person had, like, this crazy constellation of trouble, went into the hospital with this heart rate that was like 190. Jeez. And could have died, like, for sure, like, full hospitalization. So when I met her and we chatted, I'm like, well, when are you applying for leave? Like, when are you going to apply for sick leave?
Yeah.
And sorry, on top of it, she's got a bunch of family issues, like a whole bunch.
Okay.
Stress from family, stress from work, but someone who cares too much almost, right? You know, the one who's sending emails at midnight.
Okay.
Right? It's not healthy. It's not sustainable. And so her body finally gave out. And I said, when are you going on sick leave? And she's like, I never thought of it. And, you know, I know this type of pattern is based in, like, if I don't give everything to work, there's like a abandonment thing and a thing of like, I'm actually going to die, right? If I don't, that's why people do this, right? So I was thinking about it in terms of like, they're like, I'm going to die if I don't kill myself at work is the pattern. I'm going to die if I don't kill myself at work. And so I had a very deep chat with this person, and she sort of had a moment where she's like, what am I doing? Like, wow. She makes a lot of money. But she's like, I'm not going to be around to enjoy it. And I know there's people out there that are listening that do this. And I want to encourage them to get coaching, to get therapy, to get help, because these corporate jobs where you're killing yourself, it's not worth it. Like, know that there's something going on where you've got a connection in your mind that if I don't like kill myself at work, I'm not valuable, right?
Right. But you're saying, so just being over obsessive, basically overwork and thinking that that's the only thing, for example, that exists in your life.
Good example for her. Like I know her quite well. Like she cannot let go. Like she cannot not return the voicemail. She cannot not.
Gotcha.
She cannot.
Can't be open items. Basically, anything can't be. Everything needs to be closed until
closed tabs only. But I mean, I'm very happy to report that we had several chats, and she's going to be on leave, and has come to the realization like she's literally killing herself. And I just think we have to be really careful with that. And we have to watch for, like, this is why I work a lot with subconscious patterns, because if you don't see the pattern, it'll run you, right? And this pattern was running her literally to the hospital.
Yep.
And so here's the thing, the pattern blinded her so much that she's like, what do you mean leave? I'm going to take leave? Like, what? I'm like, you're not taking leave? She's like, well, no, I haven't really thought about it, but and it's like, and then this was the last thing I'll say about this, which I thought was really, really telling about our society today, which was, she goes, when I'm off, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I'm like, you don't have to do anything. Like, what if you did nothing for a while? We don't do nothing. And I know why, because of my mini depression and I didn't do much. I know why people don't like to do nothing, because the demons come. Like,
when you do nothing, you start overthinking, and
your mind.
I don't like doing nothing.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Yeah,
I really hate it.
Yeah. But that said, deep reflection, deep inner reflection comes from silence and comes from being alone, being with yourself. Most of us don't do it. You're young, you got time. Don't worry about it. But
but I've had moments in which I prefer to go out, to find something to do, not to have those moments in which you have to look within or deal with whatever boredom.
I always joke that we have a shit comet behind us, and like when we stop partying and socializing and working and we slow down. I mean, that's why when a lot of people at the holiday get sick, right? You slow down and your body's like,
100%.
But I always joke we have like a shit comet. It's like, and then all our stuff comes behind us, and you can let it pile up or you can let it go. Start to let it go. So
100%. Well, it's great you had that chat with her.
Yeah, I was really like it was funny. We hadn't talked in a while and we reconnected, and I know why. Like, I truly believe it was to talk to her about like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, it's time to take a break.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
That is really cool.
Cool. Well, season 2 has been awesome. Like, we had so many great guests. I mean, we had a couple episodes on sexuality. We had entrepreneurship. We had anger. We had so many things
we had a lot of variation. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a fun
We have
year.
a nice project for season 3. Now, is there a moment to talk about season 3, or should we just...
we should. Let's teaser it a little. Let's give out a little teaser. Yeah. So why don't we say this? So season 3, like, we're looking to, as we evolve, you talked about growth, like you said it, right? You're like, you got to grow. So we were thinking about really several episodes next season being call-in episodes where we could do live coaching on air, and those will become episodes because we really want to help people. We want to be of service, and we want to talk about the exact problems that people have.
100%. We'll work on the logistics to do that, and the
we'll
objective would be for people exactly to call in and give us their experience.
Yep.
and then we can all have that discussion together. You'll be more of the coach side of things.
Yeah, but you'll be the...
I'll be more exploring and understanding, and then
Yeah.
kind of guiding through maybe the conversation.
You'll be guiding.
But
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But
I'm super excited because this was a nice season.
yeah, thanks, man.
And awesome things to come for 2025.
Yeah, so look, and we wish everyone all the best and happiness and health. And I will say acceptance in 2025 because, you know, when you try to control things to the degree of like, well, they shouldn't have said that and they shouldn't have done that and I shouldn't weigh that and like that shouldn't have happened. Like that's not a recipe for happiness, right?
Totally
Tricky. So thanks, man. This was a great season. Thank you all. Please subscribe. That'll help us a lot. And we're excited to sort of experiment in season 3. And we've got a couple other ideas we'll keep secret for now. But thank you all very much. Thank you, Manny.
Let's get it, baby. Great talking to you, bro.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
See y'all.
It's a wrap. All right.